Pool, the oldest motorboat club in the country, with a history of race organising spanning over half a century. It's the final action of the year, so let's take a look back first at the season so far. And it was Salcomb's sensuous seaways that became round one after Newquay was cancelled. But no one said anything about being tranquil. It was anything but, and anyone who could muster up an average speed of 40 miles an hour would certainly be well in the frame. But Sharon Attlee and Jackie Porter tried, and what's more, in a 1.3 litre boat, mixing it at the front with the superior firepower of the 2 litre boys, until having to retire. Andy and Graham Gittings, favourites for the title, along with Sanderson and Scott, were suffering in 8th. Not that Sanderson and Scott were doing a lot better, they were 7th. And masters of the division on the day were Graham Hastings and Jimmy Kemp. Having threatened last year, the goods were finally delivered. Great start to the year also for Martin Bull and his co-driver Dave Gallivan. The mechanical nightmares of days gone by swept aside in 2nd place. And ahead of them, Bob Hunt in the 1.8 litre division. But the day's real heroes, Rowie Sloane and Sarah Cooper, 1.3 litre winners for the first time. Plymouth was next, and it rained, and it rained, and it rained. Blacker was back, but it was Sanderson who took all the 2 litre points. And so, on to Bonnie Scotland. But not so bonny for Rob McCarthy and Roy Trott. They had their first taste of the Tay. Brett Dancy was slightly luckier, proving you can have your Dundee cake and eat it. Although he later sank. Once again, it was Sanderson who wallpapered over the rest in A. Martin Bull continued his charge in B, and the girls were all up front in C. And this is how the scoreboard looked after round 9. The consistency of Brian and Pat Padell was still proving irresistible. The Gittings lead over Sanderson was reduced to 90 points. Hastings and Kemp were hanging on, but the rest must play for bronze. In B, Crump and Catchpole continue at the top, but Bull and Gallivan are catching up fast. Elsewhere, bronze is a target for the Archers. 1.3, Basham and Perry continue to ignore the girl power, but there could yet be spice for Christian Auger and Kevin Hoare as they attempt to steal the bronze from Lone and Cooper. So, after the haggis, what better than a cool, refreshing harp? The second of the 2 rounds, held at the North Wales resort of Pwllheli, will be best remembered for 2 reasons. The first was a terrific clash between the 2 crews most fancied to win the A division. Andy and Graham Gittings, so long the runners-up, versus Ian Sanderson and Paul Scott, current masters of the podium. After 4 laps of lead swapping, the matter was finally sorted out on the 5th. Andy Gittings eventually secured what he probably considered was a match-winning inside track, only to be outflanked by Sanderson, who produced a killer burst from out wide to put the matter beyond doubt. It was a crunching blow for Gittings and his championship bid. The other noteworthy occurrence concerned the championship leaders. Brian and Pat Bedell abandoned ship 4 laps from home. And thankfully, they weren't too hurt. But it was an expensive weekend. Brian was bruised, and Pat's permutation of cuts, lacerations and a tweak on the tibia would sideline her, and they moved from 1st to 4th place. Crump and Catchpole's continuing run of second places in 1.8 litre was still proving the red rag to bull, although he had little to beef about, having notched up 7 wins in a row. After a turbulent time in the unpredictable River Tay, Eddie Basham's Little Argo was back to its best in 1.3 litre. That meant it was almost champagne for Perry. Porter remains on station. Cooper could be over a barrel with Rose scenting bronze, and Hoare now in need of a pickup. Still in Wales, the roadshow moves south to Swansea and the delightful Lochow Boating Club. The Gittings brothers were once again out front and in top form, but there was ample evidence that the rest are closing in. Sanderson and Scott, having secured the Nations Trophy, were still battling to catch up in the Nationals. But their 2nd and 3rd would ensure a final round shootout with Gittings. The popular and deadly duo, Ian Blacker and Stuart Porter, were sporting a new flagship. Too late for this year, but watch out for next. And Sharon and Jackie, having secured Nations Cup glory, still nurtured ambitions of the double. But the surface was just too flat.
I really need to go out there and win both days. I think I can only come second unless anything drastic happens to Eddie, who's leading at the moment.
Yeah, everyone's saying the conditions are going to be flat. Do you agree with that?
I think it might catch a few people out.
Now, everyone says it's going to be flat out there today, is it?
No, there is a swell out there, which will catch people out, but hopefully to our advantage, being it's our home waters.
So you're not going to tell anyone about that?
No.
Soon we'll move across to you, your first season, of course. I mean, how has it been generally? I mean, it's had its good bits and its bad bits for sure.
I've loved every minute of it, and we've worked really, really hard as a team. And just as Vicky says, it's a bit nail-biting this weekend. I watched her in Pathelli last year, and didn't realise what it would feel like this year, needing these last 2 races. But it's been great, great fun.
Are you in the same boat as Vicky? Are you sharing the view that it is all or nothing today?
Yeah, we're going absolutely all out. We're going for the win. Never settle for second best.
Ian says that all he's got to do is finish 3rd in both races, meaning you've got to win both. I mean, how much truth is there in that?
Unfortunately, that is correct. He has got it right this time, but yeah, it's at the top 75% of the results count, and unfortunately I've got 2 more results than Ian, and so I'll lose points. At the moment I'm heading the championship, but I will lose points, so I need to get some wins under my belt.
Well, no doubt what your attitude will be today then, but what about the conditions?
Well, we couldn't have hoped for better here this time of year, so it's looking favourable for us, unfortunately.
As you can see, we're really highly pressurised today, and we're going to be watching and seeing how he gets on and cheering him on all the way.
Around 75-80 miles an hour, so it looks to me as though we've got a white boat in the lead, ladies and gentlemen, and not mistaken.
In 2 litre, A38, Gittings must finish ahead of Sanderson, A55. And in 1.8 litre, Crump B4 must get ahead of Bull 51.
Come on, Beck!
Graham Hastings, A3, whose blistering start to the season has waned slightly, is still in with a shout on bronze, but he'll need 2 good results. And hot on his heels, recovering from Perthelli's mishap, Brian Padell, another leader in a topsy-turvy season, and now in that 4-way battle for bronze, along with Hastings, son-in-law Mark Priestley, and the fast-finishing Ian Sterling. And this is the lead, and a 2-way battle for the front of A-class, and that's no good at all for Gittins. He's in front here, but with Sanderson right behind, the points gap won't be enough. Sanderson has to drop to 3rd for Gittings to gain any benefit. Ian Sterling, A15, 5th, along with Priestley, 16, and Shepherd, 33, might lend a hand. This is Eddie Basham, 4 seconds ahead of Sharon Attlee, retaining his tight grip of 1.3 litre. He really is having a very, very good championship indeed. And 3 seconds is the advantage held in 1.8 litre by B51 Martin Bull over the challenger Vicky Crump. And conditions, it must be said, will favour the Argo. But she has nothing to lose.
Go, 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 go!
Go is the call from navigator Sue Catchpole. Over 70 miles per hour is the message on the Speedo. Problems though for Martin Rendell. Breakup of the rails under his boat is making it difficult to handle. He drops back in the bid for bronze. But it's good news on the other hand for Padell. 3rd place will yield 324 points towards the same goal. Sharon Attlee and Jackie Porter needing at least a win. Fall another 10 seconds behind Basham in conditions that just aren't quite rough enough, as in Swansea. Lucky for some though, after 53 minutes and 22 seconds, Andy and Graham Gittings scored the psychological blow over Sanderson and Scott, but didn't get what they came for. Sanderson was right behind.
Another whole race tomorrow, and it's all to fight for tomorrow. Big hand for A38 Gittings Transport, Andy and Graham Gittings, please. And the race winners overall in A-class.
After this morning's interview, you certainly did your bit, but unfortunately for you, Ian also did his.
Yeah, that was the unfortunate thing of today. Could do with somebody else in between us, but unfortunately it couldn't be, so done my bit. There's nothing else we can do to the boat. We've just got to see what the conditions are like tomorrow. Obviously we can go faster if it's flatter, but if it's rougher then Ian may have the advantage.
So you need to milk on and get someone like Brian Padell, maybe Mark Priestley and a few of the lighter boats in between?
That's right, yeah. They'd only do us the honours then.
So all's not lost then?
Not quite.
Not quite, but almost. Gittings needing a miracle. It was quite apparent his only hope really was to take on Sanderson head-to-head with the hope of breaking him mechanically. And there was more bad news. If they were hoping for a hand, the Rendell brothers had withdrawn their broken boat and Mark Priestley failed to make the start line. Matt Shepherd was racing though. The sister ship to the Gittings could lend a hand, but it wasn't quite quick enough to get ahead of Sanderson's lively Phantom. Crump and Catchpole were also in arrears. Still getting encouragement though from Catchpole for one last bid. Back at the front, Sanderson had edged into the lead, which certainly wasn't part of the Gittings plan. But at least they could now apply the mechanical pressure and go for broke. They had the speed, but would they have the luck? With 1.3 litre wrapped up, it was a day off for Eddie Basham. He lent his boat to his brother, leaving Sharon Attlee a clear run at the 400 points and the silverware. The war of attrition between Sanderson and Gittings was raising an eyebrow or two. Sanderson didn't need to race Gittings, but had fallen for the bait. It all become a matter now of pride. And what he forgot was if the engine blew, the championship would be blown with it. And this was now seriously over 80 miles an hour. Throughout the year, Bull's advantage in 1.8 litre has been steadily declining. From over a minute to the good in May, it was now less than 10 seconds here in the final race. Much of that is down to Crump's determination.
Okay, and round. Oh, God.
A winner last year of 1.3 litres, she has sensibly used this year as a learning curve in the higher division. Getting quicker by the race, gradually applying the tourniquet that she hopes will eventually restrict the supply of points to those in her wake.
Two A-boats behind.
With her co-driver Sue Catchpole, she represents everything that's good about girls who take on the boys without any favours expected or given. At the flag that ended the season, it was another victory for Andy and Graham Gittings. But as they expected, it wasn't good enough. It almost did the trick. Sanderson had slowed down dramatically late on with a mechanical problem. But eventually, he finished second, a long way back, but good enough. So this is how it all ended up, 62 points the difference. Graham Hastings, a final flurry, landed bronze. The Beddells were fourth. Sterling Stuff for me and an 80, they were fifth. With the Rendalls, why don't you get the old Phantom running again in sixth? And at the final count in 1.8, just one win separated first from second. But with the Archers also lining up the ball, next year could be interesting. He won the National Championship, she won the Nations Cup. There were more girls in third. Watch out, boys, the revolution's coming.
Tried everything they knew, it just wasn't going to be enough.
Very exciting race, very close, but towards the end we lost 1,000 revs, so it was touch and go whether we'd finish or not. So we were extremely worried at the end, and it was great to finish.
You should have got your boat running like that, perhaps one race earlier? Yep, that's all it'd need. One race earlier, if we'd have got the form that we've got in the last few races, we'd have, I think, clinched it, but that's the way it goes.
The other people in our class have been getting closer and closer, and these last two races this weekend has proved it. I mean, there's been literally seconds between us. So next year, if we're all still there, we've got something that we've got to do.
I can't get enough of it at the moment after many years of almost winning but failing. This season, success, it's sweet.
And so ended another year of rough and tumble on the bumpiest and craziest racetrack in the world.